on it. And then I came home, there you were, and there it was, and he, I went to the ATM and I was getting money out.
Oh, you can sit down there if you want to.
And, I was pulling money out of the ATM and he looked at me, thank you. And he goes, what is that? I looked at him. I could tell he was, yeah, I could tell he was mad. I said, are you mad? He goes,
Not the 19.
trying not to be.
But I did shoot
He's
it.
got one that he got when he was 18.
You're about a month
It's a
ago.
mom symbol.
They got church songs going on in Wichita.
Well, his mom worked in the dentist office.
It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
That symbol looked cool.
So
Yeah, it's just big.
pay
things look
$25
cool.
for a ticket.
So he got it when he was 18. That's what I said,
What
what are you mad about? But anyway, yeah. And I really wanted it on my left wrist, but my sister has faith on her left wrist, so we decided to get.
I did a lot.
Totally matched, she wanted me to do it. Because hers is upside down. And I thought, if
But
I
I
get
shot.
this, I may enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yes, we have upside down.
8.
Fully on that.
And it, oh, we know.
Yeah, so we only need 4.
It's about 5.
So that you're addicted to them and you want
For
more.
now.
No,
When I was
I'm
in
done.
I'll shoot
This
something
is it, I'm
very
good
fast.
with the.
Yeah.
No, I am so good
That's
with it.
probably good.
How are you, honey?
Telling my family story.
Good.
I loaded up a whole mag.
Did you know she has?
So I'm thinking about
Jay's got one in Hawaii a few years ago. You've heard her sister,
No,
but
I'm
it's
fine.
getting one too.
It's
Yeah,
a thing to do.
I guess it's a thing to do.
I don't.
This is only a year old, so I didn't have one
Hello?
before thing.
Oh, that's your only.
Yeah.
family?
Make sure you have your keys,
Your mama didn't like it.
because I locked the door.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, no, my mom wasn't real thrilled, but
So
like I said,
I'll
my
just make
sister's
sure.
got quite a few of them.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Mom, this is it, I'm not getting any more, you know?
So yeah, I'm actually,
My son's got quite a few, and my grandson, so. And they're too small. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It could be worse.
They are, actually just come out of the box.
we'll see how that's on.
Probably. They're the 540.
They updated the slide. Break up its trigger and action.
And then like, oh,
So it does.
Well, that's ridiculous.
574 actually.
Yeah, it's a-
I had a neighbor tell me one.
It's like my college. My city, 226.
They kept pushing me to LV.
I've got an updated trigger, custom trigger in it, I've got a spring induction trigger kit in it, slide, purple stereo with it. Grips, stainless steel, extended release.
Over this. And I'm.
You didn't realize.
And that's just like a shirt.
Yeah, it's my
They use it.
Yeah.
Now they.
On the spine. They are.
Okay, so it's 9. How about you? Agenda for
Look at there. Yeah. That's pretty good. Yeah.
So my employer isn't bankrupt today, you know? We got $400 million in cash.
605,
Today. So we can keep the doors open for now.
Who?
Oh, Spirit? Yeah, Spirit got 300 million from Boeing and 100 million from Airbus.
Okay.
No interest loan to keep us in business until.
Buy you guys back again.
They are, but this is just to hold us over until that can go through,
And then I
Oh, God.
right?
Oh, God.
I updated my resume.
Ugh. Now you can get a job someplace else.
I know, but then I would have to move.
No, I don't mean someplace else. I mean, like, I don't know, factory here.
Hiring aerospace engineers right now.
I don't know. They're always pushed for people.
Could run for days.
Like Textron and, you know,
Maybe some of the audit.
You know?
yeah, but you can't trust Boeing, so.
Right, yeah, that's true.
You know,
I've
just
heard they
saying.
can't.
They done Wichita dirty twice in a row.
Yeah,
Alright.
yeah.
They get done in a day and I don't know. He might.
I thought it was the hardest. It was really bad. I was like, oh my god. And then I had it again today from hockey yesterday, and I had it again, and I was like, oh my god, can I not do anything? Well, okay, in last year.
I was looking to your time, you're 9:05.
Yeah, that's what I put. I call it the clock.
It's not 9,
I don't know what time it really is.
6:05. I was looking
Okay.
at this screen.
That's basically, I mean, a lot of it, it's like, it's internal and it's, they can't see.
I had to get rid of.
I put it in extended max lease, so it's longer, so it's easier to reach. I don't trim down. It's like, so I had to do some modification.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more, it's like the.
Down on the grass outside, and it's still right. My pen.
Nice. That is sustainable.
Well, if it wasn't, I would have picked it up and put it in the trash,
Right.
because I constantly pick up trash.
Yes.
Constantly. Yeah.
Yeah, like,
I know you highlight the subcommittee we discussed last time, you know,
Well, I
like
changed
the
my grade.
green water.
so instead of running both of them along.
I-
Well,
I-
why are the subcommittees?
I run this one.
We agreed last fall, you know,
I think
to
we
discuss
I run this meeting.
send kind of like Google
So I
form.
basically take it
Consent,
right
you know.
Oh, I thought we were gonna talk about that this meeting.
slide, or slide, I think it's my camera.
Yes,
So
you can't get caught.
like in the last weeks, you know.
Mhm.
Neither.
See,
I haven't done it, and I haven't sent it out, to people. I thought we were gonna talk about it this meeting. That's why I'm sorry if I interpreted
Oh,
that
no
wrong.
problem, man.
Yeah.
Frightening.
Did you guys vote to make the subcommittees? I don't remember. I think,
Mm-mm.
I don't know, I don't think there's any bylaws for SIB at this point.
Yeah.
You guys have some leeway with adopting those.
Do you know how the last subcommittees were formed?
The subcommittees, we just decided what we wanted to do.
Okay.
We said, okay, well, I'm interested in this, I'm interested in that, I'm interested in that, and we set them all up.
Okay, okay.
But most of them met a couple times and didn't meet anymore. My committee did. The Waste and Recycling Committee, we met a
I might
lot,
like to say,
but we've kind of abandoned that now.
like they can send it without any sign up form.
Okay,
Can do that.
yeah, if you guys wanna establish those this meeting and then.
Maybe like up under C, chair updates, I can go up to.
Yeah.
We have Scott, yeah.
One more of the.
I do think the Waste and Recycling Committee is important. But it's just hard to schedule. We had a pretty good sized committee and it was hard to schedule everybody. Plus, everybody's got their jobs and all this other stuff too, you know?
So.
Mm,
You know,
Yeah,
volunteer advisory boards,
yeah.
great
Yeah.
times.
We met a lot.
I'm in dad mode and attending a public meeting.
Hiring it or not hiring it.
We still got our document somewhere about how to do compost,
Yeah, I might even
citywide
have that as a
compost,
first.
you probably do. So, I mean, that would be ideal. We will never fly
It'll
ever,
tell you what you're doing,
never,
how to
ever,
fix it.
never. But we need to do something. We've got to ban leaves and grass from the landfill. Has to happen. We can't wait years. What we're doing is banning plastic bags from the landfill. We cannot keep that stuff going into landfill. It's huge. And it's a huge waste. I mean, that stuff is so reusable. People just don't, we were gonna do education on it too, but there's the funding that's a part of it.
I don't even have a bag on my lawnmower.
Like,
I didn't even own a bag. I didn't even know why people bag on stuff.
Because they live in homeowners association.
They should not have extra government.
If you don't, they have.
Yeah, they rule.
That was the thing, we told our realtor, with as I did, we were like, absolutely no HOA.
Right.
So that's why we live where we live.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, my community police officer still calls it a homeowners association. Like, Brian, it's not, it's a neighborhood association.
Neighborhood
Dude,
association.
dude. Well, he's not like he can come anymore anyway. He's got obligations on Thursdays. I think
Yeah,
his
this is
kids has something on Thursdays. So he
You
sends me a report. It basically
have
has
a living.
nothing. Nothing ever happens. Which is good. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's a big
I was
Dylan.
gonna
He said
talk
something's
about
ticked
that,
up at Dylan's. He didn't really need details.
Look, that was
Dylan
really
just
easy to
always-
take a look at it. Yeah, it's what I sent you. in the
They
email.
recently had somebody come with at that Ace Hardware,
Oh,
and the guy ran over himself with his own vehicle and died in the parking lot.
Yeah, I will
He
go
got
through it,
stuck
yeah.
between the door and the wheel and dragged himself to death. Yeah, he was stealing a home air filter.
that was it?
We
That was
can
it.
get input, but if you wanted to, we can switch the discussion.
Right there.
So if you want,
That is-
if you want to talk about
Yeah.
subcommittees
Still
and
worth
stuff,
it,
you
dude.
can add that to as a small discussion item.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It was.
Now they do
I
that.
don't even, I'm not really picturing how he could do that, but.
Only on discussion
Oh,
items, yeah.
uh,
So those
I
are supposed to be
haven't
just
heard about that.
updates as everyone's
that was-
updating. If you can feel free to, at the end
Yeah.
of all those, since there's no
Oh, that's
voting,
right.
we'd like to see if anyone else has any questions regarding those.
Tell me something.
Yeah, but usually traditionally,
Although
it's
it's only
after
email.
discussion.
Right, yeah.
Can't talk to
After
them.
discussion.
It's not like they return.
I just emotionally not.
Yeah, so, on the agenda, if you want, under 4 discussion items, I'll add a C.
I hope we'll be there.
Yes.
I didn't remind her.
You need to make a motion
But
during
he was all wanting to
I
do
might.
it.
Yeah, I live in that.
Yeah, I mean, you can just move to add it during, I don't know.
Yeah.
Updates.
I think we have to do it during
Or add it.
discussion items.
Okay.
So after,
But I get 100.
before you present your, do your gray water presentation, you can make a motion to add an item to the agenda and to add that in there. Maybe one more person before we actually get.
Yeah, like, tears, I'm thinking, I talked to her, thinking.
Oh, that talk is so wrong. But
Yeah.
it's also kind of right.
Little bit.
It's right for the wrong time
Then
zone.
it just.
Oh, God. Yeah, well.
Right now.
I can't reach that. I was like, I would take it off. and-
Kids like that is what I wanna know.
Every time I look.
It was fine a month ago.
I don't know, since we're waiting anyway.
It's way up there. Maybe you can.
Oh, it's just one of those.
It's like $50.
Doing my civic.
98 pounds. So it's like one time.
But really, no way. There has to be a spinny.
And they send, they send.
She's not much anymore, but she's loud. She sent this to me last night.
Hello?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I think that's gonna be.
It's radio.
I'm good. I'm sitting.
What?
So it's, it gives them a hot signal because it's time zone wrong.
Can you guys send me the link for the Zoom, you know? I might need to share this.
If you go to the sustainability page and onto the sustainability boards page, it'll be on there.
Daylight savings time.
Yeah, it busted,
Stuff, but
Yeah,
couple hours.
apparently.
that's why the 15 is correct, I guess, but yeah,
That's weird.
I don't know.
An electronic clock. It looks like a cheapo clock.
It does, but yeah, it's it has the station from Colorado Springs on there.
Who has the remote?
Okay, Kim, thanks for the call.
No,
Somebody,
it's
but,
satellite,
I mean,
not
so it
satellite,
needs to
but
go outdoors for a while, maybe. It needs to-
I'm here.
shortwave radio maybe.
Yeah, the link on the, well, click on that and then see where that goes first, and then you scroll down a bit. And I think it'll be below that.
Yeah.
It's the word Zoom.
Oh,
Yeah, that.
She was supposed to call.
No, it's a chick, it's a, yeah, I don't think there's gonna be another slate, so it's just a slate.
Oh, Cindy's on, okay. We have a quorum then.
Can we go now?
And I like Candy.
I need to make sure that she.
I do not like, I do.
Okay, you can call the meeting to order whenever you'd like.
Quorum, just trying to-
And it'd be one thing. Yeah, it'd be one thing if.
Good evening, everyone. So we are going to start our November meeting for Sustainability Integration Board, you know.
Yes, I will be there.
So, yeah, so I'm calling to order the meeting so we can start, you know. So we have a certain agenda items, we follow that. And everyone has opportunity to speak, you know, from the members and from the community, okay?
So I'll start off by touching a little bit on the quorum, just because I know there was a little bit of confusion. We've had more people come to the meeting, so just making sure when, you know, people are able to speak. So this is the layout. So as discussion topics are introduced, there is gonna be a board discussion for board members only. After that, we will allow for public comment, 5 minutes per person, and I will, be keeping time, and then only comment once per topic. And we do have to make sure that it's on the agenda item. Kind of following somewhere out, if there's another discussion topic, this will again, we'll go through that again. Knowing there's only board discussion, then public comment, and then if the board decides to make a motion on it, that's when they can do so after all public comment has finished. And then at the very end, there is public comment, which can be about anything, the public would like to say. Again, it is capped at 5 minutes. The public can comment, they can ask questions, and questions can be noted or answered once the participant time has ended. So once you've asked everything, then we'll start commenting, so we don't take away from the public's time as well. Just a little bit of other notes. Only one person should be answering questions from the public comment. I do believe this is going to be, the chair is going to be answering, unless you would like to defer to somebody else. Public comments, like I mentioned, do need to be on the topic of discussion. If on a discussion item, if we're just on general public comments, feel free to make it about anything relating to the sustainability board. And then board members need to be recognized by the chair to speak. So just making sure we're not talking over each other. So Ibrahim, you're gonna kind of be in charge of that to call on the board members. And the liaison will keep timer on phone. So that's me. I'll be trying to signal you if you're almost out of time. But that is it. Did we have any questions from the board? Any questions from the public about this?
Real quick, so the public comment, there is discussion between the board. It's not just I talk, you guys listen.
So you say whatever you'd like to say, questions, comments, whatever it is. If it's at the end of, on general public comments, at the end of every agenda, there's just general public comments. Once your time is up and once you finish speaking, then the board can choose to respond if they'd like, or just take your comments / questions into consideration. Okay, cool. So moving on to, oops. All right. So these are announcements that we're gonna start on today. So Ethan, I'll let you get the update about the grant.
Sure, so the decision was made by the city manager and the Public Works and Utilities Department Director to not pursue this grant. So I can't go into a lot of further detail right now, but we're gonna be looking into other opportunities to try to fund my position going forward. But if you've got specific questions about it, Gary Jansen, Public Works Director, said he would be happy to answer questions.
Gary Jackson should be here to tell us why.
I believe he's at a conference today, the Governor's Water Conference.
Who? I
The-
thought you said Gary Jansen.
He's
Okay.
at a conference.
He's at the water, oh, that's right.
Yeah, yeah.
It is now, yeah.
Okay.
Darn.
Should we email him if we?
You could email, I think we've got his phone number if you'd like to do a call, but.
Feel free to
give him a
call
if
you have any questions or comments
He's pretty good about answering emails, though.
Okay.
I'm assuming his email is G or, yeah, G.
G.
Jansen
Jansen.
At wichita.gov.
Which grant was this again? Sorry, I didn't hear.
The Environmental Justice and Community Change Grant. All right, moving on to chair updates, Ibrahim.
Yes, I'm trying to add like a new item for this meeting under my agenda items. It's called like sustainability bacon, you know? And the topic I did select today is mainly about the big event that's going right now about sustainability. So I'm going to share my screen.
You might have to stop sharing to let him.
Yeah, if you let him. There you go.
Thank you. So this item will be like a short, like 2-3 minutes, you know, just trying to share with you like high level information about sustainability, climate change in general, you know. So let me share this.
Okay.
So the United Nations is organizing like a big conference. It's called COP29. And this one is called United Nations Climate Change Conference, or sometimes called like COP, or Conference of Parties, you know. And the main objective for this one is mainly to address different issues related to the climate change. This is like annual global meeting on a climate action. And this conference started in Germany in 1995, you know. So right now we have this conference in Azerbaijan, and this is like 29, you know, it's called COP 29. And this is like started this Monday on November 11 up to 22. So during this conference, you can see different peoples from across the world, you know, including like leaders, researchers, activists in the field of climate change. And the goal, as I mentioned, for this particular conference, review the progress, set targets, strengthening the commitments to the compacting, how we can compact the climate change. And the focus areas for this conference is the same: reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, how we can finance the efforts for the climate change, adaptations, and any sustainable solutions for these problems. And the key outcome from this conference came from something called like Paris Agreement. And if you read about sustainability or climate action, you hear the words 1.5. So 1.5 is a critical number, you know, for climate change. The main goal, we need to reduce the temperature by 1.5 degrees Celsius. If we achieve that, we should be okay, you know. So as I mentioned, the goal to limit the global temperature rise to be less than 2 degrees Celsius or 1.5. If you are interested, you know, they have all these sessions. Just go to the website, United Nations FCCC.int COP29, you know. So last year they had this one in United Arab Emirates, and every year they try to move from area to area so we can get kind of engagement with the countries, you know. It's really important, you know, to address this today, you know. I will stop here. Any questions, feedback from the members?
Well, are you just wanting to, you know, alert us as to like the fact that the conference is going on right
Yes,
now?
yes.
And okay.
And if you need to have more insights, you can go to the webpage of the conference. They have recorded sessions on the YouTube. You can get more details. Just give you where you find this information.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. This is my main update, you know.
All right. Okay, board updates. Ben, you're close to me. If you'd like to start off with the update from transit.
So in our October Transit Advisory Board meeting, we had two real agenda items that we keep working on, and it's this smoke-free policy and the code of conduct. And those have been mired is kind of not a nice word, but they've been in progress in legal review for several months. And our the main lawyer liaison for the transit, she left to go be this city attorney at Derby. And so that process will essentially need to restart again.
to continue that review process, to make sure, the things we're putting in place are defensible. And if somebody violates a code of conduct or a, smoke-free policy, what are the ramifications of that? And is it worth going through something if it's not enforceable? Is basically where it comes down to. And then we had, director's report and financial update. It was ride free to the polls, on election day. Everybody got to ride free that day. So that's cool. Basically that's it. We got another meeting coming up on November 20th. So.
When you say transit code of conduct, you're referring to like behavior on buses, or is this for the drivers?
It is behavior on buses.
Okay, so the smoke-free thing just kind of folds into that.
It
It's
kind
like-
of, yeah. So right now, the policy is like the overarching Kansas law where you can't use tobacco products indoors or within 6 feet of entrances to buildings.
Mhm.
But that doesn't necessarily include entrances to buses or open air transit stops.
Mm.
So
they're not actually talking about on transit. They're just talking about the area of
yeah,
loading and unloading.
right. You
from-
can't smoke on a bus, you can't smoke in the facility, but what if,
Right.
like our new hub, it's a parking garage. It's not enclosed, so what is that? So that's the legal
So they've gotta
process.
work
They
out
gotta
what they
work
can
out
do.
what specifically, to get the intent of the advisory board and city council's wants and needs for that
Mhm.
type of thing. So.
Okay.
And then the code of conduct, basically what stemmed from that is we had a couple incidents where riders were behaving inappropriately and sometimes violently towards drivers. And so we needed to shore that up for their protection and to make it a transit system where people want to choose transit,
A safe ride, yeah.
safe ride, yeah, so. Okay.
Russell, if you'd like to give one about the bike path.
We haven't met, because our scheduled meeting would have been on the 11th Veterans Day. So it was pushed off till next Monday.
Scott, I don't know if Stormwater has met. I know you said they haven't met in a while. They might not meet until maybe December.
Yeah, they have not met, so I'm waiting for a new meeting notification, hopefully next month sometime.
Okay, thank you. Cindy, did you have any updates?
So the updates that I want to talk about really have to do with what goes on at advanced plans, because a lot of stuff that we discuss goes on at advanced plans before it comes to the planning commission. And so things that we're looking at overall as the planning commission is, number one, just the number of cases that are increasing that we're hearing at the planning commission. Meetings are lasting longer. Sometimes they're going, from 1:30 to 5:30, 6 o'clock, whatever, because of the influx of cases. The other things really, I guess, that would be pertain to what we're doing, really, sustainability integration, is there's a lot of conversation going on about event center permits out in the county. Right now, there's no noise ordinance out in the county. So noise has been an issue for event centers. Let's call it noise pollution, because it really is. And so there's a lot of conversation about what kind of requirements should be put on event centers that are created out in the county, and the regulations around that getting stiffer. The College Hill neighborhood plan, of course, is in the process of being created. We're having a lot of conversation around parking and zoning, and I'm sure that you all have heard information about parking and the debate on parking. Also daycares and zoning. So we're looking to downgrade some of the zoning that's required for daycares in order to be able to address the issues related to daycare shortage or childcare shortage that's out in the community. The two other things that might be of interest. So they provided an update on just what's going on with the solar energy. So that's That's still in conversation as far as the Sedgwick County Board of Commissioners trying to decide what's gonna happen with solar energy. I really, other than knowing that it's still at the Board of County Commission, I don't really have much update. The last thing that happened that I have is August 14th, the Board of County Commissioners approved the alternative set of potential code revisions with 3 additional modifications. Those were included changing the maximum project area of a commercial solar energy conversion system from 1,280 acres to 1,500 acres, changing the maximum number of contiguous sections of land for a project area could be from 4 to 6. So being able to build those again, bigger and with more contiguous area. And then changing the maximum distance and unattached portion of the project area could be from the rest of the project area from 0.5 mile to 1 mile. So still conversations going on about solar energy at the commission, at the county commission. Yeah, I think that will likely continue until they get something really resolved for what solar energy looks like in the future, at least in the county. That's it.
Thanks, Cindy. Approval of minutes.
So all of us, we got
Yeah,
the meeting minutes from Les, so let me ask you guys, do you have any corrections to the meeting minutes?
I don't remember looking at them prior to the meeting. I'm sorry. I'm a terrible board member. I don't look at things before the meeting. I don't recall any issues. I have no issues. I will move to approve them.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
All those
moving,
against.
there you go.
All those against.
All those again?
Aye.
Just making sure there isn't anyone against the minutes.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, they look good.
Mhm.
They look good.
all right, okay, so these are gonna be our discussion items for today. So first up, Andrew Van Tassel to talk about drought.
Yeah, hello, everyone. I'm Andrew Van Tassel. I work for Public Works and Utilities. My title is Special Projects Coordinator. I'm actually these 2 individuals' supervisor. I picked them up in September.
How are they doing?
I wear a lot of different hats, so I have a communications role, emergency response role. I am in charge of all the recruitment and retention, and then I'm also the main contact for drought. I'll go
Andrew,
through.
are we still hiring?
Yeah, we're always hiring.
Oh,
yeah.
Good to know.
Good question.
Well, Spirit goes out of business.
Yeah. So I'll go through this, and then I'll leave some time for questions at the end. Whether you're aware or not, I hope you're aware we're in a drought right now.
I hope everyone's aware.
Yeah. At this
If
point,
they're not, they've been paying no attention at all.
right. So we've, taken a kind of a strategic approach to protecting our water supply. And that goes into various different parts of how we're approaching it. So number one thing is we have a tiered rate structure. That's been identified by AWWA, the American Water Works Association, as a verified way to promote water conservation. Basically, we have 3 blocks of pricing. We take the average winter consumption through the months when people aren't watering their grass. I believe it's December through March, and we average that out, and then we compare your usage to that. So during watering months, if you go above 110% of your average winter consumption, it would bump anything over 1,000 gallons usage into tier 2, and then if you go into 300% 301%, then you'd be in tier 3 and it would be very expensive for you. We also have been, for years working on our aquifer storage and recovery projects, and this basically recharges the Equus beds. We intake water from the Ark River. Don't fully treat it. We take out sediments, and then we store that in our well field and in the Equus beds, and we get credits as far as water rights for recharging the Equus bed, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. We have an industrial reuse program, Spirit, where they use effluent water. I think Ibrahim's going to talk about reuse and gray water. Gray water is kind of a dirty term, pun intended. We like to use the word effluent because gray water has different connotations. They use about 385 million gallons per year. That's great for water savings. We would love to have more industry go to the south side of town and utilize effluent water. That would be amazing. So we're always trying to, encourage folks to look at putting, an industry near the wastewater treatment plant. And then we have phased capital planning for drought resiliency, which is the ASR is included in that, and well field improvements. I think we just brought something in front of council for some well field improvements in the last month and a half. And then the new Wichita Water Works water treatment plant that's across the street from the Sedgwick County Zoo. Thank you. Okay, so this is a picture of the ASR, and as you can see, the river intake structure, the river has to be up enough for us to intake.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we've gotten some rain lately, so we've been able to intake. And then there's a pre-sedimentation basin where we take out some of that sediment that I talked about, and then a settled water pump station that pumps it into the wells. And that's just kind of a, overhead view of this. It's out near Sedgwick, about 119th Street.
Where did when I served on the DAB, and this was quite a few years ago, they took a bus and one of the council members, not mine, went with us. And we went out there and saw it, but I don't remember it being out by Sedgwick. I thought it was closer to like Hutch, or maybe it was Sedgwick.
Yeah, it's,
Maybe that is
it's on the
one.
way to,
Okay.
but yeah, it's 119th Street.
Okay.
It's about, I think 14 miles.
That was really neat to see.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool facility.
Yeah.
This is the pictures of the old water treatment plant. It's about or over 80 years old, and the new one. That's kind of an older photo because there's grass down there now.
Yeah.
But we provide water to over half a billion people. So we have 143,000 residential customers, and 14,000 commercial customers. And then we have 11 wholesalers. So we sell water to Bel Air, Bentley, Derby, Keachai, Park City, Rose Hill, Valley Center, and then 3 rural water districts. I believe there's a couple of these wholesalers that in the future are working on their own water treatment systems. So that number may go down, which is fine.
So water is more expensive when you live in those cities because they're buying water secondhand.
Yes, it is.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
So raw water sources. So we get water from basically 2 different sources. There's surface water at Cheney, and then there's groundwater from the Equus bed well field, the ASR credits that I spoke of, and there's a small amount of local well fields within the city. So we have to, the way the current water treatment plant works is we have to maintain a certain mix. So it's generally about 55 to 60% from Cheney Reservoir, and the remainers from the Equus beds. We've tried to maximize as much as we can through the treatment process from the Equus beds to preserve the amount that's in Cheney. But the current water treatment plant, there's only so much we can do being 80 years old. When we get the new water treatment plant up and running, we will be able to, if we had to, run from 100% groundwater. Of course, we need to open up the plant, we'll take, ownership of it in April. And then we'll have to put it through its paces. So I wouldn't say that we're gonna be running 100% groundwater, right away. It's more expensive as far as chemicals, but we'll be able to play with it so that we can extend the amount that's in Cheney and maximize, how much water, remains in Cheney. So, up at the top here, like we have a drought response plan. We're in stage 2. I'll go a little bit more into detail later. As of 11/4, we were at Cheney Lake was at 56.24%. Right now, I think it is at 58%. So the recent rains, we had about 6 inches of rain around that area in Cheney, and 2 inches or so a couple weekends ago, and then that week another 3 or 4, and I think we got 1 inch pretty recently at Cheney. But it's about a 600 square mile basin that all of the water drains into. So for some reason in the past 3 years, when we had rainstorms, they would just split right around Cheney. We weren't getting the rain where we needed to. But right now, it's, I think, 7.7 feet below normal. This is the lowest that Cheney has been since 2013. And it's actually the lowest it's been since they put the Cheney Reservoir in place. So if we continue on this drought, like we have been, we'll probably hit stage 3 of our plan within about a year, give or take 3 months, one way or another. I mean, of course, hopefully we'll get precipitation, because that's the main thing that's going to get us out of this drought. One of the hot topics that kind of comes up on social media, and I think there's been some news articles, is why don't we dredge Cheney? And Gary Jansen, the director's kind of hopefully put this to bed, because if you look, Cheney's in actually pretty good shape as far as the sediment. We've done, a lot of stuff in the past to reduce the amount of sediment. So the return on investment of dredging Cheney just to get that small amount back, it's just not fiscally responsible. So, as you can see, some of these other watersheds definitely are in much worse shape than we are. So this kind of gives you a historical look back. As I mentioned, the last time we were in this sort of situation was 2013. And we got, I think, 2 main rain events. We got about 12 inches in 10 days. That filled up Cheney. With us getting 2 inches several weekends ago, I think Cheney went up about 6 inches, 6 to 7 inches. So if you can think about it, we would need, it's almost 8 feet low. We're going to need dozens of events like that. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. Since we're in a drought, if we just get an errant rain in that area, the earth just soaks it up. So there's not a lot of drainage into that basin. What was nice about the rains that we had a couple weekends ago is it was almost all weekend. So the ground got saturated, and then a lot of inflow occurred. So, I mean, it would be great if we got some sort of huge rain event in Cheney. I don't see it happening in the winter. Winter's typically drier. So most likely it would be spring if we get some great rains, but we'll just have to see. So the colored lines here, green, yellow, red, and black, those are the stages of the drought. And as you can see, we went into stage 2 in August of this year, which we started restricting outdoor watering. And the dotted line is the conservation pool. It's really hard to see. I apologize, but the dotted line is what the actual level of Cheney is at. We use the 12-month moving average, and so that's a little bit higher because it's constantly going down, but the 12-month average is higher than that. So that helps us ensure that we're not taking ourselves out of restrictions too early by using the 12-month average. You know, because we could jump up 30% of the actual and then continue through the drought. Let's see. So again, I mentioned it a couple times, we have a drought response plan. It was put into effect in 2013 by the council. There's 4 progressive stages of restrictions based on where we're at with the 12-month moving average. The idea of this response plan was really to make sure that we could weather a Dust Bowl type event. So, you know, we get opinions on both sides. Like when we first put in water restrictions, folks were like, my grass is gonna go brown. I hate it. You know, it's gonna rain. We've heard it all. But we're preparing ourselves in case this went on for 8 solid years. We're basically in year 3 of it. So that's where the 4 stages go in. So stage 1, we started in January of 2023. Tried to push that out there a lot that we were in a drought, but at that point, not a lot of people were listening because we hadn't seen the effects. No one was out at Cheney. Boats were still, you know, docking and all that stuff. That's when we did some voluntary water conservation measures within the city. We started watering our grass less. We've always had a rebate program in place. So that was there to help with water conservation. And then we started doing things like limiting the number of trainings that fire does that are really water heavy. We looked at reuse because we have some reuse that we can do from Herman Hill Park, stuff like that. And then what most people know about, because it affected pretty much everyone then, is we enacted stage 2 in August. So we restricted outdoor water usage to 1 day per week, and then cut off watering between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m., which is just a good standard practice, is not to water during the middle of the day. So people should be doing that anyway. We're trying not to, you know, negatively affect businesses, so there's some exemptions in there. And then stage 3 that I mentioned, if we go below 50% rolling average, we would basically prohibit all outdoor watering with certain exemptions. I don't know that we would ever go to stage 4, knock on wood, but if we did, then it would be mandatory water conservation for all customers. You would have to limit your usage to 15% of your average winter consumption that I talked about. And then we may talk about putting on flow restrictors and stuff like that. That's when it would really get.
Question, Andrew,
Sure.
is it 15% of average winter or reduced by 15%?
Reduce your average winter consumption by 15%.
Okay. Like, I wouldn't be able to wash dishes anymore. That'd be okay.
In stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, you have the asterisk, some exemptions apply. But in stage 4, it also says no exemptions. Now, obviously, I mean, we don't want to get to stage 4. We hopefully won't have to get to stage 3.
Yeah,
But is there a provision anywhere in the plan for at some point, you know, taking a look at those exemptions? So like in the previous screen, you know, it lists some of the usual culprits. You got, you know, car washes, you've got golf courses, but you know, not all of those businesses are using water in the same way. Car washes, for the most part, reuse a lot of their water. Obviously, that's not the case with golf courses. So, I mean, it just seems to me that the exemptions were a bit of a grab bag, just like, you know, list of businesses that need use a whole lot of water in order to keep their business operating. Do you know if there's, you know, any provision or any thought of like okay, maybe at some point, we're gonna have to take a look at these list of exemptions and like make some distinctions. Has there been a conversation like
so-
that you're aware of?
I'll admit, like, so this got codified in 2013. It was when we were out of the drought. So there's some vagueness in there, and it's at the discretion of the city manager. Like, when you're talking about no exemptions and then the asterisk about some exemptions apply, that asterisk it's confusing here because in stage 3, the asterisk is talking about outdoor water prohibited. That would still allow those businesses that derive their main source of income from outdoor watering, so like nurseries, even though most people are not going to utilize those because they can't plant seed, they can't plant. So there's those issues with it. In stage 4, that asterisk is exemptions apply for the 15% reduction of average winter consumption. Those exemptions would be for like hospitals for dialysis. We're not going to make those customers reduce by 15%. They simply couldn't. So that's where that is. I would think once we get out of this drought, we probably would revisit it. Just going through this, we've learned a lot from going through these drought response, but it's codified, so we have to bring it to council. So
Okay.
yeah, I would think once we, after the fog of war, going through restrictions with customers and stuff like that, we would probably look at maybe amending it. We've amended it once so far, just recently, to allow the city manager at his discretion to decide which stage we go into instead of automatically going into them, which kind of gives us some leeway because, like I said, we use the 12-month moving average. So if we were to get like a 15-inch rain event over a week and it filled up Cheney 100%, we would technically still be in stage 2 until that 12-month moving average caught up. So he may just say, let's not go with these restrictions. So, but yeah, I think there'll be some more thought into it. This kind of goes into it again, the 4 quadrants. This image doesn't show, but Andover are mostly our customers. How am I doing on time? Okay.
It's only 10 to 10. You're okay.
Andover, those are city of Wichita customers. So I have an amended picture that didn't make it to this slide, but their dividing line would still be central. So Tuesdays they would water in North Andover, and South Andover would be Thursdays. But
Does anybody go out there to check?
so right now it's for Andover it's would basically be by complaint. So you can file a complaint. We're trying not to be punitive with the fines. We're trying to just and we've really seen folks really answer the call. Like we've consistently the first 3 to 4 weeks of the restrictions, we had reduced pumping at Hess Station by 20 to 30%, which is great. That's exactly what we need. But yeah, Derby has taken a different route. They actually have automatic meter reading that goes down to the hour, and they can remotely read it. So they've preemptively started finding people if they're going above their normal. We don't have that capability with the city because it's a very expensive venture to have a whole reading system. You would have to lease cell towers and stuff like that. That's just something that we didn't do. We have trucks that read them, but it's a good segue. Thank you. Like consistent 10 to 30% reduction since August. This usage comparison here kind of shows how probably in the middle to the end of October we got out of watering season because we were consistently 19% compared to 2023, 11% down as far as usage, and then 15%, and then you can see it kind of trails off in October, and then actually we were 5% above usage in the first portion of November. And that could be a number of different things, like, that could be some industry that's using more for one reason or another. So that, you know, we're not too alarmed at that. I don't think anyone's, I think people are still adhering to those restrictions. And as you can see, we've sent warning letters. In the beginning of October, it was higher in the 35, and then we just sent 10 the last week of October, and imposed, you know, a handful of penalties. And again, I've been really impressed. You know, a lot of people are, you know, angry at not being able to water their lawns, but you know, most of the folks that call me and talk to me about it are pretty understanding, because they've seen the pictures of Cheney, they know what situation we're in. So if you have questions about the drought, savewichitawater.com is the quick link to get there. It's got information on the drought response plan. If you have a well, we have a bunch of different signs that you can put up, just so people, your neighbors, will know that if you're watering on an off day that you have a well and you're allowed to do that. There's FAQs, and then there's also kind of a neat section called irrigation education. We partnered with the Sedgwick County Extension Office and K-State Research, and they have a really neat campus that's over there in Sedgwick County Park on the corner there. They have tons of articles and information about xeriscaping, you know, native grasses, anything you can think of. You can actually bring your plants in there and they will take a sample of it and tell you what's wrong with it. It's really cool. It's a free resource. They've been a great partner in helping educate folks. I pretty much already kind of discussed this, but again, the new water treatment plant that'll come online in April will give us some flexibility, and hopefully we can extend stage 3 by using more groundwater, and we're in pretty good shape. I believe at the beginning of November, the Equus beds were 94% full. I gotta say it's probably more now since the river's been up and we'll be able to intake, but I didn't have that number to tell you guys earlier today. So moving forward, so in 2013, we, like I said before, I've already hit this, we had several major rain events, so just you know, put those good vibes and prayers out there that we have some more rain events like that. If we did start returning to normal precipitation, right now we're in a drought, we have less than precipitation except for November, which I think we're like 10 times the amount of precipitation, especially in Cheney, that we would normally have. It would take about 3 years to gradually fill up Cheney. So we're not going to be out of the woods again unless we have some huge major events. And I think, you know, we've had tons of conversations. Gary has mentioned this every time he talks about the drought, that we can't have a short memory this time. We need to change collective habits. You know, if you see your neighbor watering every single day, you might just talk to them and tell them that that's bad for their root system. Like, you get a small root thing, and then if you get into a super hot day, you know, the grass is going to react poorly. So so we are thinking about things that we might change in the future. We've already talked about changing some of the landscaping practices, moving away from the fescues, going to buffalo grass, zoysia, stuff like that. So not to steal Ibrahim's thunder, but this is where some of the effluent information is. One of the main things we're looking at is maybe doing some reuse. So right now, we put 26 million gallons, 30 million gallons. Since we haven't been getting rain, it's closer to 26 million gallons as an average out of our plant 2, our wastewater facility. And that effluent water goes right into the Big Arc, and then goes to other communities. Well, we would love to be able to pipe that up to the new water treatment plant and use that, because that's an additional 20 to 30 million gallons a day that we could be using just to create potable water. There would be some legislation that would have to pass, because currently Kansas doesn't allow that. But it's certainly something that a bunch of other states do, and it's just it seems like a slam dunk if we can can get that. And then there's several other areas, like, so one of the areas that we already use some effluent water, not for potable water, but our sewage treatment folks fill up their tanks there. We've been using it for Park and Rec to fill up water trucks to water trees is our water center, and that's part of our environmental remediation program. So there's a couple areas within the city that had been had some chemical waste dumps that we are treating the water in those areas, the groundwater in those areas, as a part of remediation. So about 1.3 million gallons a day goes into the Ark River from that, and we've used that for several things right now. We've got a standpipe in Herman Hill Park right next to the water center that we utilize. So yeah, and any other questions? I did a lot of talking, so.
Oh, thanks, Andrew. Very informative presentation, you know. When I looked at,
What is the current state law about gray water use, or are you gonna talk about that? I mean, you mentioned that legislation would have.
Yeah, so currently you can't use that effluent water and treat it again for potable water. Forgive me, I don't know all of the.
I will touch on that.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So my point to you, like, when we look to this problem in general, we have like three main directions. One you mentioned today is mainly about a kind of restriction for the water users, you know, during certain hours. And this is based on the stage we have, you know, and also tapping into the groundwater, you know. But what we're still missing is mainly the root cause analysis for the problem, you know. The root cause analysis coming from water evaporation during the summer, you know. So during the summer, you know, we have huge water evaporation, which is something I discussed before in the previous meeting, you know, and I shared that with one of the city council members about this, you know. And the another point is mainly we have to tap into unconventional water sources, like the gray water, for example, you know, harvesting the rainwater, something called like a fog accumulation, all this stuff. So tapping into these sources might help, you know, as I don't expect, there is a climate change is happening, you know, so we might not get back to what we had during 2013 when we have this heavy rainfall to fill it back. I don't expect, maybe I'm not too positive, but we might don't see this again, you know. So my question to you, like, if you are going to tap into underground water, do you experience any like elevation in the salinity of the water in terms of TDS?
So yeah, so the aqueous beds, there's only a certain depth that you can go before the earth is salty.
Okay, so you know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and as far as evaporation, yeah, like evaporation is a huge part of it. Like, in the summer, you know, we lose just about as much in evaporation as we do in use.
Yes.
Typically, we have, it's, so I wouldn't blame evaporation completely because during normal non-drought times, we lose just as much.
Yes.
We of course, like we've had hotter winters, longer seasons, but as far as a supply standpoint, we're in really good shape. Like water, we actually use much less water now than we did in 2013.
Okay.
Just because of water conservation measures, like we have high efficiency, like appliances, like industry, you know, just through, you know, innovation, use less water just to cut costs. And our current water treatment plant can process 120 million gallons a day. The new water treatment plant will be able to do that as well. But you know, we on our highest day we're only in 80 million gallons a day.
Okay.
So yeah, it's honestly it's really about precipitation at this point. So Farmer's Almanac and folks at NOAA and stuff don't see us having an especially wet next, you know, 6 to 8 months. So we'll probably still be in that. If it continued on further, then you know that's what we're trying to think about now. So I think the reuse is a really good one because that's, I mean, on a normal winter consumption, that's almost 3/4 of our use would be supplied.
Makes sense.
By in effluent water, sorry, almost said gray water.
Thanks, Sandra. Has any
Yeah.
comments from the members? So we go.
We're gonna do board members first and then.
No.
If you'd like to open.
Yes, we now open to the public, yes.
So this is not really consumption, but it's reuse, and I brought it up at the last one. How much are you guys promoting rain barrels?
So that's a great question. That's actually part of our rebate program. So
Right.
If you go to savewichitawater.com, can't plug that enough. We still have plenty of funds. We used to, or in the past, water, like smart products like
Shower heads.
dishwashers,
Yeah.
dishwashers, laundries, thank you. Those were included, but most of those are already water conservation. So what we saw is a lot of people using those rebates just to update. They weren't specifically like, I want to conserve water. So because we were in this situation this last year, all of our water rebate products are focused on outdoor watering.
And those are great,
Yeah.
you know, and we've taken advantage of that, but again, just kind of promoting, you know, the rain barrels for people to be able to water their gardens, water their shrubs, water their trees. I would just be hopeful that maybe you guys would promote those more.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
As a suggestion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with everything, like we try to promote as much as we can on our social media channels and Facebook, and you know, we have updates at the mayor's media briefing, but again, it's always money, you know, like radio advertising, stuff like that is very expensive, so I think we'll get some more funds for advertising as we approach next watering season.
And just more on social media, because you know, that's where everybody's at.
Yeah,
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
You talked about advertising, but couldn't you be using PSAs, public service announcements, with the radio stations? I know there used to be, an FCC requirement that they were required to have so many PSAs in a day.
You know, I'll have to talk to our communications team, like.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
something, if you could pull it off, it wouldn't cost you a penny, and I think the rain barrel thing, probably needs to know about it.
It could be an announcement and a test in the same thing. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I haven't heard a public service announcement on terrestrial radio in a long time, so I'm not sure if that's still
It is,
It
but you have
is.
to be up at 3 a.m.
so yeah.
That's when they run them.
Not when they
Yeah.
have
Wow.
but yeah, no,
Are you up at 3 a.m. listening to the radio?
I know. One time I did hear one, but I'm like.
Yeah,
"Oh,
no, that's a good thought. I'll talk to our communications team about that.
One of the things that I'm not hearing is that obviously water is a finite resource.
Mhm.
And Wichita has chosen to sell water to numerous municipalities. But I've yet to find any answer yet, and I've even contacted Commissioner Ryan Beatty and asked, where is the plan on what is the max growth based on the lowest drought levels of water of what the municipalities, what growth can we handle as a region when Wichita's supplying water to so many different municipalities? And that question has not been answered, but that should have been part of the growth plan as they began to sell water to more and more municipalities, because we've actually lived in Kansas for 2 years. We come from a place that has a lot of focus on environmental sustainability, all those things. And my first thing, as soon as we got to Kansas, was like, wow, you guys are in a drought. What is going on? Why are they still using water? And everybody just kept saying, it's gonna rain, it's gonna rain, it's gonna rain. Well, that's not an answer. So you hope it's gonna rain, but that doesn't mean it's gonna happen. So we've just watched for 2 years now. There's been uncontrolled growth happening in all these municipalities. And it's like, where is,
When you say growth, are you talking about population growth?
I'm talking housing, I'm talking industrial, commercial, all those things are still happening. Cities are growing and there's more building going on everywhere. And yet it's like the drought's getting worse. we're going into stage 2, we could be headed to stage 3. And the question even like, how is it being determined? Like, are all these municipalities staying within the stage 2 requirements? What is the reporting back to Wichita? So it's like, there's just no plan that was ever put forward as Wichita began to sell water to all these municipalities. And I think it's 2 or 3 rural water districts. It's like, so you have to have a growth plan. You have a finite resource that you have to be able to know how
Right.
much you can.
We haven't added any wholesale water customers sometime, so I would kind of debate the point that there's this untapped growth, because if you look at census data, we're not growing it. It's an increase, but it's not more than 1 or 2%. So.
But yet over the last 10 years now, since coming out of the last drought, it's like there has been a significant increase in housing. There's a significant increase in commercial and industrial. There's more still coming and looking to come. And so it's like, if you're going like, well, this has never happened since 2013, well, what changed between then and now? Well, it's the growth that has happened. You still have a finite resource, and so you have to look at what can, at the worst drought level, what can be ongoing sustained. And I understand you're now looking at the water treatment plant where you're gonna start, pulling groundwater. Well, what about all the customers that are in this whole region that are also drawing through wells and groundwater? So where's gonna be, the balance of how much Wichita's gonna pull, and are those people who are still on wells gonna have plenty of water supply that they've always had?
So, yeah, so a couple points there. Those that are pulling from their wells wouldn't necessarily affect, it's all part of the larger aquifer, but
Absolutely.
well use would be a drop in the bucket compared to us pulling for use.
But there's been on the east side, Andover area, talking about like wells would dry up.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's like, you have to still look at that. It's like, okay, this is still a finite resource that we have to consider. And then another thing that came out was like, don't plant trees. Well, that's like the #1 thing you would do is plant trees, because they take very little water. And then you're actually reducing the temperature around those areas, and you're reserving. Yes. And so it's like, I don't understand what Wichita's putting out. It's like, don't do that. Oh, the grass? Yeah, I could care less about grass, but I'm not from the Midwest. So it's like, but trees and shrubs, it's like, that helps with what? It reduces the surface temperature. It helps to hold the water in the ground. Like, those things should be like, yes, plant trees. It only takes a gallon of water a week, basically, to keep a newly planted tree alive. And then the other question I have, sustainability wise, is you're talking more and more and more chemicals to treat water. Well, you have this balance that you're weighing, like, how much chemical do we want to be using to clean water in dealing with this finite resource that we have? So you begin to look at the difference between having raw water as well as you're having chemically treated water then that's being used to supply water to a large region. So those are all questions that are actually legitimate for this discussion.
Okay, yeah, I mean, so as far as, in a non-drought situation, we would not be having this conversation, of course.
But it cycles all the time.
Right, but we, being that we took on these wholesale customers, I mean, what's the alternative? Cutting off these rural water districts and saying that you can't have water?
I still think there's a discussion that needs to happen about what is sustainable growth that can actually happen.
Well, like I said, we're not adding more wholesale customers, and of course, we're not shutting down the city to new business or industry.
But if you have new housing and you have new industry and new commercial that's happening, those are new water customers that were not currently in the system that was already existing. So you really have to talk about what can we sustain and support.
I think the short answer to your point, I totally agree with all what you said, It is all about a new concept we have to adopt in the city. #1 is something called decentralized water treatment center, So every community is trying to expand in the city, has to have its own decentralized concept, You have your own gray water coming out, treat it, reuse it, So the main idea how we can cut potable water, how we need to cut potable water consumption for non-potable water application. This is the key. So I will discuss this now. The second point, as I mentioned, we have to tap into unconventional water sources, and we have to pay attention for the temperature, as I mentioned, for this COP 29. The idea, we need to cut the surface temperature, the earth temperature. So yeah, it is a big topic,
It's a huge
Yes,
topic.
I was prepared for seconds, but it takes hours,
Yes.
to make a plan for
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, to overall answer your question, as far as reducing our wholesale customers, that conversation is.
Correct.
Can I just say something? In regards to our growth rate is about 1.25%. And while it seems that there's a lot of building going on, we also have lost a considerable amount of housing units. And so there's a huge shortage even in housing that will accommodate that first time home buyer. And so I just don't, I think it's certainly we need to figure out, I guess, what's that tipping point. But I think there might be a perception that we're growing at a much higher rate than what we're actually growing. I chaired the committee to develop the comprehensive plan for the city of Wichita and Sedgwick County. And we did a projection hoping to get 2% growth. We've not come anywhere near hitting that. Our growth is still very, very small.
But what about the growth in the customers that you serve?
Derby.
Derby, Andover.
Mays.
Valley Center, Park
Park
City.
The growth that's happening in those cities.
It may not be in Wichita Central.
Right, well, Valley Center is actually one of those communities that's building their own water treatment center, so
Great.
they will be, that will be less of a wholesaler. I think they may still take some water from us, but yeah, like I said, the main thing is we have not entertained adding more wholesale customers. We have long-term contracts with those wholesale customers, so yeah, I do agree with you that, like, that needs to be put in place. And when we, for instance, when we were planning the new water treatment plant, they look at growth patterns for the next 100 years. And because the water consumption is going down, even if we had a huge, above 2% that we would hope for, and larger industry, we should be able to in a normal situation, meet those demands. So
Thanks, Andrew. So we need to allocate like one question for everyone from the public. So are there any other new questions? Go ahead.
Real quick, so can you constitute what metrics you guys use for a drought? Because you said, okay, I understand cheating, but then you said the aquifers and the equus beds were pretty much full now. Is that correct? So where does it constitute that okay, we're in a drought?
yeah, good question. So because we have to use that surface water, we use Cheney that's what they decided in 2013 to use as the standard, the 12-month moving average of the surface water Cheney. So even if for some reason, God forbid we had 50% in the equus bed, we would still, because the codified plan uses Cheney as the tipping point or the mark of where we're in a drought in the response plan. Yeah.
Sure. Gardening, I know there's no regulations on watering your garden every day, it's just lawns.
Food producing gardens are exempt for hand watering and drip irrigation.
Okay, is the city doing anything to encourage people to put in their own ground wells to use that water for gardening, or?
So I would say if you would like to do that, then go ahead. We're not outwardly encouraging it. A lot of times right now, depending on where you live in the city, you can't drill a well. Some of the areas noted, like the water table within that area is, you can't drill it down far enough, because then you'll start hitting salted.
Okay, we got consulted about it. My property's good for groundwater.
So we have our part of our environmental health team has well permits. So I'll give you my card, and if you want to email me, I can
Okay, so you do have to have a permit to put in a well.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Somebody have to come out and inspect it or the.
Yep,
it's
yep.
on? Are there any other city ordinances? or
I would like to-
About it?
Mention something, like
Yeah.
according to the agreement we have one comment per topic, you know? So we need to move on, you know, so we can allow
Well, he
more.
hasn't commented yet.
Yeah, but we have to go right to different,
We can't cut off public comment.
okay.
But you two might be able to meet afterwards so that you can get the details you're asking about.
Yeah, I can stick around if you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I have a question for Cindy Miles. You said something about
That's
lost
what it is.
housing. Can you explain that a little bit? How we've lost housing?
Already commented. So that's not the topic of discussion and you have already commented, so you have
Okay.
used your,
That's fine. I'll just email her and ask her that.
There is
Yeah.
also time at the very end for public comment if you'd like to ask at the end of the agenda, if we are able to get to that point.
Okay,
Um,
so we move on, or go ahead.
So can I ask her a question?
If it's on the topic,
Well, it's just something she mentioned.
Is
that
it
was just-
about
on topic?
I mean, she talked, because we were talking about the sustainability and the water, and she said that we've lost housing. Could you just tell us where you lost housing, where we lost housing at?
Yeah, so you have a certain amount of housing that every year it deteriorates, or if you drive around the city and look, the city had 300 houses that were on the market that have been boarded up, so they've not been used. I happen to work in the 67214 zip code, where it's not an uncommon thing for houses that have sit and deteriorated to actually be torn down and the lots really just swiped. And so we have lots of empty lots around the city of Wichita. And certainly if you look at 67214 or 67216 or particular zip codes where we have actually lost housing stock, I don't think we're gaining that much. And there a lot of the developments that are going in right now actually are duplex developments on top of that. So it's kind of interesting to watch the change of what's going on in the marketplace and the development overall.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the public? Okay,
thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.
thanks, Andrew. Do you have time for the next topic? Okay, so let's move to the next topic for the gray water. It is more like a connection for what Andrew shared with us. I will share my screen.
Are you, okay.
Before that, I'll just give you some information, you know, about what happens if you cover the surface waters, you know. So in the United States, if we cover 30% of the reservoir areas with a floating solar panels or something similar, you may save around 5.5 trillion gallons of water per year. And you can also generate around 1900 terawatt of energy. So this is something we discussed last week, like 2 calls before, you know. So now I will go to my topic. So my topic today is mainly about the gray water treatment and reuse under the concept of decentralized concept, you know. This might be well aligned with what Andrew shared with us, that we might need to tap into unconventional water sources and how we can leverage that, you know. So let me start this presentation, but what does it mean, gray water? So gray water is defined as any wastewater coming from non-toiling plumbing system, something coming from the showers, sink, washing machine, and other sources inside the residential houses, you know, or building. As you can see here for this diagram, you have the main water stream coming from the city, going to the residential building or commercial building. You have different uses for this water, ranging between washing machines, showers, sinks, toilet, and others, you know. And as a result of that, you have a waste streams coming out. When I say streams, meaning that we have 2 streams of waste coming out. One is called the gray water, which any water coming out from the residential building or commercial building that doesn't include the flushing from the toilet, you know, it's called gray water. The other water is called black water, you know. So my main topic today, how we can reuse the gray water, you know, to cut the use of potable water, you know, consumption. And the main idea when we city provide water is called potable water, you know, so we need to make sure we can reuse this water multiple times. If you see this diagram, you may have many questions, you know. Number one, how we can make separation between two waters, black water, gray water. Question number two, how we can treat this gray water, you know, under the decentralized concept. When we have a water treatment plant, what comes to our minds, oh, the city will do that. But as a community, we can do that, you know, under the decentralized concept. Question number three, how to make sure this gray water will not hurt my trees, will not hurt my garden stuff, you know? So what is the quality of this water, you know? Question number four, what is the difference between centralized concept and decentralized concept? In the next 4 minutes, I will answer this question. You know? So the treatment has different ranges based on the cost and based on the resources you have. So I group them into physical or chemical or biological treatment, you know. When I say physical, you don't use any chemicals in your treatment. Similar to what we had before 100 years, using the sand, you know, to treat the water, you know, using activated carbon to treat the water. So all this, we have it, you know, we can source it. It's called physical treatment, you know. When you say chemical, meaning that you are using chemicals to treat the water, you know, especially nowadays, if you have a showers, you have a lot of surfactants in your chemicals. You're already feeding chemicals to our water, you know. So that's why sometimes we use chemical to take it out, you know. Something called like coagulation, flocculation, sedimentation technologies, where we add like a coagulant to the water. This coagulant is a chemical. We start to make coalescing for these surfactants and other organics, make a large particles, start to settle and get out from the water, you know. When I say like biological treatment, this is like biofilters to make a treatment, you know, or we can make a combination, you know. So this is just a very simple example, you know. If you have a source of water coming from your kitchen, washing machine, what do you expect? I do expect suspended solids, right? Floating materials, some surfactants from the showers. I do expect some hair, whatever, organic stuff, you know, human remains. We have all this. So first action, we have to take the solids out. So we can make this physical, no chemicals, different beds, you know, different particle size, screen all these solids, you know. After that, you still have something we cannot see. It's called microorganism. I have to kill it, you know. You can kill that by the sun, you know. If you expose the water to the sun has UV, you know, and start to kill the water. Or you can use chemicals, you know, like sodium chloride and other stuff. Use these bleaches in the houses, right? So we can use something like UV disinfection or use the light for disinfection. And after that, water should be good to go, you know. But you will ask me, what does it mean good, you know? Good meaning that you have to meet certain requirements, you know. I will share that. The requirements has different definitions, you know. If you look to this table, you can see something called turbidity, you know. TSS, total suspended solids, something called BOD, biological oxygen demand, and other stuff, you know. But it's mainly about how we measure the quality of the water. Every country, every zone has its own definition, you know. So I will back to our country here. United States EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, they have a certain rules and regulations to meet this one, you know. Like for turbidity, it should be 2 or below. For the BOD, 1 or 0, you know, something like that. Some countries, they have more restrictions, so it depends where you are living, you know. But the good answer, to be easy for you, I don't like to see floating materials in my water. I don't like to see suspended solids. I would like to see this water similar to the bottled water. Oh, I'm happy now. Just ABC, you know, understanding, you know. I don't like to see smelly water, you know. Smelly meaning that you have organics, you have microorganisms. How to take it out? Just use UV disinfection, some chemicals. It's up to you, you know. What is your budget, you know? This is how we can make treatment. Now, is this something applicable? Did we see something that in the market? The answer, yes, you know. This is like a unit, decentralized unit. Maybe like we are in this community, we have 4 houses. We can make our project pumping this gray water to something like that, and they make like a common reservoir. All the community can leverage this water, you know, something like this. And you can pump this water out from the reservoir using a solar powered pump. So you can save some energy, you know. all this will establish, you have nothing to establish from the ground. So now the question to me, what does the difference between centralized and decentralized, Usually the concept centralized, as you can see here, you have different houses, or different commercial buildings. All of them, they are tapping into one big, large treatment plant, There is many problems behind this concept. Number one, you need like huge pumps, to push the water through these pipelines. And this is huge pumps, meaning it's not huge energy consumption, to do that. You need like, if you have like growth or expansion, you need to have new infrastructure. You have to get the public work busy. All these people get busy, And in the meantime, you see the plant how is very, very big, as Andrew mentioned that to us, and how commitments for financial commitment to make this one, and it takes years, to get it done. So what we propose is called like decentralized, Every zone has its own decentralized concept, treat your water, reuse your water. So in this case, as you can see here, we can split this concept into different zones, and has some logistics behind that, how we can group them. This is something we need to work together, But the main idea I need to share today, we have to cut the potable water consumption for non-potable water applications. This is the main message, So what is the benefits, Let's say, you follow what I said, so you will start to conserve water, A lot of researchers, they found that if you start to reduce the potable water consumption, using the decentralized concept, you can cut the water consumption by 25 to 50%, And in this case, we can have good shiny reservoir, So we are good. Number two, you can start to minimize the load on the city in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the cost, monitoring system, pumping station, You save hundreds and hundreds of dollars, We can take this money to something different, Like having like more green spaces, reflective surfaces, something like that. And also energy saving, electricity is, so I know we have energy is a big issue, Also environmental impacts, If you have more pumps, you have more emissions. This pump running by electricity, So you apply more stress. So a lot of advantages, I shared that with one of the city council members, and he likes the idea, And I thought it might be a good topic for discussion today. So I will stop now. I will open the discussion for the board members, and after that to the public.
The only thing that I would put out there, and I don't know if anybody can answer this, and I don't even know if there is a way to answer it right now, but because of go back to the centralized versus decentralized, because of just the infrastructure that had already been put in place here in the city for economic reasons, for political reasons, there didn't really seem to be much discussion about whether we should move in a decentralized direction. They just assumed that like, what we need to do is we need to get the grants, we need to get the money, and we need to rebuild a whole new centralized system. And now we're deeply invested in that, and it's gonna be good. There's gonna be a lot of benefits from that. But once that's in place, isn't it kind of gonna make it actually that much harder to move in a decentralized direction? Because path dependency, we've already built the one great big plant, we've replaced it with another great big plant. There's energy efficiencies, there's more, there's more fairness in making each community, take responsibility for their own, water treatments. But how are we gonna get away from the big centralized system we have here? Because we've already invested so much in it.
Yeah, you have a point. My main point here for expansion in the city, if I have like a new residential buildings, we expand somewhere in the city, this might be a concept we need to leverage,
So this is really just a hope for, future growth. Please expect people to do this in the future, that sort of thing.
This is right, or if it's possible right now for the current condition, we do it. I'm not sure about the city, if they have every pipeline has a certain lifetime. After that, you have to start to make investment for this pipeline of the system of the city. So if at any time the city start to make this decisions, they may consider something like this. I'm not sure about this, just idea, But you have a point, yes, you have a point. Any comments from the board members?
You know, Cindy mentioned the infill, like areas that are now vacant within the core of the city. Going to something like this with a new build of a duplex, for example, may make more sense.
Here we are,
Community
yes.
garden, it would pair well with our community gardens. So, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
something.
but any of that, I mean, and it's a great idea, but
Mhm.
let's recognize that any of those infill, you've already got existing pipe systems.
Yeah,
and so
that's
forth.
the benefit of the infill is that the infrastructure is already there.
Right.
And it's the old infrastructure.
Yeah, I know there's some logistics behind that, but at least we have to keep this, on our radar just in case if any expansion, new infrastructure, or something like that.
And, with Wichita being the biggest city in Kansas, we have the ability to try things like this, to show that maybe like Hayes, they're gonna have to do things like this a lot sooner than we will.
Yes,
They're,
yes.
they're doing that like right now. So,
Yes, you're right.
yeah.
Okay. Any other comments from the board members?
It doesn't look like there's any shots.
I think there are maybe smaller, simpler ways to do it on a one-on-one, on a homeowner basis as well.
Yes.
Because I looked into that. I ran the pipe from my shower
Okay.
to just go outside. And I had a little hose that would take it out to the plants on that side of the house.
Oh, nice. That's.
So that worked well for a while.
Mhm.
But then I haven't had anybody back in to try to fix the connection
Yeah, you need
again.
to
So
make
I'm
like
just
kind of
back to regular
frequent
again.
maintenance,
But it
yes.
could be fixed that I could do that.
Okay.
But the city doesn't know about it because it was illegal. It was illegal. It was illegal.
Are you sure you wanted to mention that at a
Well,
public? This is a public
Yes.
meeting.
What I'm saying is, what they said was what you could do is put your own.
Okay.
But they had
What's
a
the
whole
point?
plan when I called in. They had a whole plan on how to do it. Now, and you may not know about how to do that, but they said, no, you can put a tank and you put it under the ground and then you put this in here and you do that and you have to leave it sediment till it settles on the bottom and all this kind of stuff. They gave me this whole explanation. And I'm like, well, I don't think I can afford to do that.
I think the problem is that anytime you expel water, that it could be going in the storm drain, but.
And this probably would never make it that far, but
You would
But-
think, but I mean, those rules are in place to prevent
Yeah.
if it would.
I was hoping to keep my foundation from cracking because we often have the ground cracking and that is not good.
Yes.
So that was going to go, that was up by my foundation because nothing grows on the north side of the house. But they had this whole spiel on how you could make that work on a house-to-house basis too.
Thanks, Lauren. So let's move to the public. Yes, you.
Oh, I think.
So,
Cindy, did you have something? Maybe not. Sorry, I thought I saw her raise her hand. Sorry.
so in the state of Kansas, it is illegal to use gray water, correct?
I don't know about the state of
I
Kansas.
don't know about. the
Or is it
cases.
Wichita? Is that just a Wichita rule?
You
Not to?
you said it was
That's how I
state
did it.
legislation.
Yeah, there's state legislation about using effluent water to create.
So before you could even think about doing any of this, you would need to go to the state lawmakers and have.
Not any of this. He's talking about using gray water for a variety of different things, landscaping and.
So we're allowed to do that right now?
I think I think as Lori found out, there may be some regulations there. I don't know all of them, but yeah, I got my card if you're interested and I can pick you up with the right people to.
Okay, I mean, it's just, talking about all this and that if there is legislation and there is certain laws on the books that you would have to get all that changed before you could even think about doing something like this.
Yeah, when I mentioned that was specifically for using our wastewater facilities effluent. So yeah.
We can get this information by next meeting. I will have it as an
Okay.
update, so I can share it.
All right, thank you.
Any?
My questions. First, I was mentioned earlier about using affluent water for industrial purposes, and that currently there are some that. So is there a program within Wichita that incentivizes industrial to utilize gray water in their operations? And it's like, that's something that is ongoing, like trying to draw more industrial customers into the program?
Yeah, it's not, I don't know that there's a formal program that
Okay.
we're out there advertising,
Okay.
but I think when the economic development team mentioned that, and like I said, we try to draw as much industry to the south side of town if that is a possibility. But yeah, Spirit gets a very good rate on that effluent water, so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'll kind of, I work at Spirit. I'm not in the plans for buying water, but I know when that, and it's, we call it the purple pipe.
Yeah.
Cause it is purple. And that, yeah, we basically, Spirit paid for that, from my understanding, paid for that pipe. Like, it was so much of a cost savings, it paid for that entire project. Just with the, and then we run it as processed water. And then, you know, we have our chemical scientists test it and make airplanes out of it. So, yeah.
Is it totally just within that plant?
So the effluent water, I believe, is used for processed water for all the plant too. So the big plant where we make all the 737 fuselages, yeah.
Is Textron doing that currently? What
No,
Spirit's doing?
Spirit's the only reused customer.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't remember seeing a purple pipe.
Yeah.
I thought I would ask, cause that might be.
We'd be open to it, for sure.
I think she's still on her public
I still
comment.
had another question. It's okay, that went off in other directions. So on the residential side, is there the potential of creating an educational opportunity to educate homeowners, property owners, that there is the possibility of utilizing gray water from their homes or their businesses to utilize that water back on the property? It takes a lot of education. Like, you've got to teach people like what it is, how to use it. To me, that goes right along really with sustainability, because education is like a massive part of helping people learn, you know, how to utilize all their resources in good stewardship.
Yeah, education is one of the most important elements for every activity for sustainability, you know, not only for gray water, all the aspects, you know, but this topic is just raised like last call. We try to have this to support right now, get some inputs from the board members, from the public. We'll get back to the city. So we still, you know, try to raise the scope for.
Right.
We need to make like demonstration in terms of pilot plan, prove that, you know, something like that. Still, you know, one of the action items we have to take it out from you is your feedback, move forward, you know.
Okay.
But education for sure, no doubt, you know.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any comments from the public?
Back to my question. So how did Spirit, how did that work? I mean, how
Yeah.
did they get started? Yeah.
So from my understanding, it was basically they did an energy audit. And they, you know, realized they were paying a whole heck of a lot of money for water. And our scientists determined that the effluent water was adequate for industrial purposes. And so that's
So
how
how
the
would we
process gets
encourage
started.
a company like Textron, you know, to,
I mean,
To do that.
the tiered water rates did it for Spirit. You know? Make water more expensive?
Probably the thing that would convince Textron would be for someone to show them Spirit savings.
Yeah.
Yes, it's my.
Business decisions, yeah. And
so that
also,
might be a good
yeah,
idea to do that.
yeah.
You got it, sir.
Yeah, so on your centralized versus decentralized, I think it said that if you go to the decentralized, you can save 20 to 30%.
20 to 25%.
Okay, so why would you be able to do it in a decentralized system versus centralized? And if you can do it decentralized, why aren't they doing it now in the centralized?
So let me rephrase that. Why we cannot see that with a centralized
Right.
concept? Is this your question?
Yeah.
There is kind of water wastes during these networks, you know, till you get to use a plant. This is my understanding. So if you get out from your house X gallons, you know, go to the plant, and the plant has kind of a waste stream coming out. They want to treat all this water to the level as I have a waste coming from my house, from this house, from this house. All the ways, the strength of the waste getting higher and higher and higher. So treat this water, get a water recovery out from that, is getting lower at the end of the stream. But if I treat my water as a source, I have less.
Please, the library will close in 15 minutes.
So,
If you have books or other items to check out, staff are available near the self-check stations to assist. Please save all documents and complete all printing at this time. Thank you for visiting the Wichita Public Library.
So short story long, centralized concept, you may have like higher concentration of pollutants, which will make restriction for the treatment. That's why if you have a small community, a small household size, you know, few houses, the strength of the waste is less. So you can treat more and you can recover more of the water.
okay, so, all right, I get that. A follow-up, how
Yes.
many times can you treat the water before you lose your minerals and?
This is a good point. You have to look to where, to this table.
Okay.
If you exceed this table, this water, I cannot use it, you know? And there is on different web resources, you can get kind of meters to measure turbidity, measure TDS, you can get point. So we are, like, we have to go out, you know? So I'm going to adjourn the meeting and thanks for your time. And I will see you next meeting. Thank you.
All right.